Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're doing a more of a relaxed kind of video. We're just going to talk about a lot of things stock video related. Technically, this is going to be a follow-up to my previous video talking about why I think the GH5 is one of the best stock video cameras out there. But if you haven't seen it, don't worry about it. In this series, we're going to be talking about last week's video, either things I forgot to mention or comments I got on it, answering you guys' questions. I got a whole list here, so let's just get right into it. This first question is inspired by a friend of mine, Valentin, and that's the sort of how, when, and why of recording stock video. And I'd say the how is pretty much go to Black Box Global and follow the instructions to sign up with them. It's a little bit complex, but once you get started, it gets your footage out to the most agencies, and it also has a great Facebook page full of people that are willing to help you out and answer any questions you might have. I've learned a lot from there. So yeah, definitely check it out. I might do a video on how to sign up and step-by-step and everything, but honestly, just read the rules, read the user guide, and you will be good to go. All right, next is when. So when for shooting and when for editing and uploading are two different things for me, because I've always got my camera out. I'm always shooting things, whether it's paid for a client, whether it's short films or fun videos, or just walking around my yard or doing hikes or whatever. All those things have opportunities for you to create stock videos. And if you save that raw footage for later, you can go back at a later date, edit them up, and upload them to Black Box. The when for uploading is a little trickier, and this is where I think his question comes into play the most, which is, how do you balance doing stock video and uploading stock footage when you've got clients that pay you way more up front? Really seems like it would be hard to justify doing stock video when you can get paid a lot more from an individual or a business. In the beginning of the year, around January, February, whatever, work is pretty slow, and over the sort of winter months, I will just sit down, take all the footage I've just shot of random stuff or from jobs or from films, and just look at it and see what could be used as stock video. And from that old footage I've recorded, I will just go through tons of it over these times when there's no client work. If I do have client work and I've got edits to deliver and I've got things that have a deadline, that stuff always comes first for me, and stock footage is sort of like a bonus. You know, when I'm not doing anything else, it's something that I will always have a chance to do to keep working on my color grading skills and look at my old footage and really see what could be used as stock video. I hope I didn't ramble too much on this one, but yeah, long story short, if I don't have any other paid work going on at the moment, I jump right back in and keep working on that stock video. And lastly is the why, and it is very similar to the last part of this question, which is I want to diversify my income for those winter months especially. If I can continue to make money passively off of these shots, even during those winter months, then that's going to be a great cushion for when I'm not getting as much work in that sort of colder time of year when no one wants to be shooting the outside of their business when there's snow on the ground. So yeah, it's a really great way to diversify your income, to sharpen up your skills, to practice color work, and to, you know, even potentially meet people you wouldn't otherwise meet, models in your area, other filmmakers that you can collaborate with. It's really a great way to just continue to grow both as a business and financially, as well as develop your skills. All right, next I wanted to mention this in the video, and I actually recorded this and forgot to edit it in, so here we are talking about it in this one. So before the conclusion of all this and the wrap up, I just want to throw some stuff out there. If this is going to be your first camera, as in you're just getting into videography or you're trying to do a little upgrade from like phone or something like that, GH5 is probably not going to be for you. Honestly, the G85, the GH4, or even the G7 are still really great cameras, have a ton of features, but are a little easier to get into, let's say. So here's some recommendations for some lower end cameras, just in case you aren't sure whether to go straight to the GH5, because it is a lot to handle. So first up, the G85. I recommend that because it's got that IBIS, not exactly like the GH5, but pretty close, and it's going to get you a long way. Has a lot of great specs. Next would be the GH4, no IBIS, but you can get stabilized lenses, and it has more assist feature that the G85 might not have, and maybe about the same image quality, and I think it might be a little cheaper, don't quote me on that. And last would be the G7. I know a lot of people have this camera and it's the most stripped down by far, but it's also the smallest and cheapest by far. So if you think you want a Panasonic camera, I would start at one of those. And if you like it, work your way up to the GH5, because even going from the GH4 to the GH5, I thought it'd be an easy, seamless transition. And I was lost. I tried to do a film the very next day after I bought the GH5, and I was struggling and I made a lot of mistakes. In fact, I've got a video coming up too on things this camera does better than the GH5, so keep an eye out for that. While we're talking about budget options, if you're looking for more casual style shooting or smaller form factor, I really love this little guy. It's the LX100, and it's just a tiny little compact camera. It's got a 24 to 75 sort of millimeter range, f1.7 to f16 zoom lens. It goes to 2.8 at the long end, but if you are looking for a second body and you come from Panasonic especially, this little guy is really good to just have with you. And yeah, it looks cool too. So yeah, definitely recommend this camera if you are looking for a second camera to shoot stock video with. So yeah, good stuff. Speaking of cameras I forgot to mention, I really think I should talk about the G9. Someone on Blackbox mentioned this to me, I think, and that was they were really struggling between the GH5 here and the G9, which is a little cheaper and might have even better stabilization than the GH5, which was, like I said, the main selling point for me. It's going to be a little bit more stripped back, but honestly, the G9 is going to be a pretty strong contender if you're looking at Panasonic camera bodies. I haven't got my hands on the G9, so I couldn't tell you 100% what each one does better, but it's definitely worth looking into, especially if you do a lot of photos too. I know it's amazing for photos, and the GH5 is just pretty good. The G9 is amazing for photos. So if you do a lot of photos and some video, G9. If you do a lot of video and some photos, GH5. At least, that's my super simplified answer for that. There's also some of the Sony APS-C and full-frame cameras. You could probably get some of the older ones for around the same price as the GH5. They're not going to have as many features, but they are going to have maybe a little bit of stabilization, but also they're going to have APS-C and full-frame size sensors. So if that's a big deal for you and you're more concerned about the low light performance of those cameras rather than the stabilization, then yeah, definitely check those out. They might be better for you than this. Again, I can't personally recommend them because I haven't used them, but yeah, I just thought I had to mention those when it comes to stock video. Moving right along here, some recent developments I wanted to talk about with the Canon R5. It's supposed to have iBiz, unlimited recording, 4K 60, 6K, 8K, crazy slow motion. So it might finally be the camera to beat the GH5. It's going to have Canon's amazing colors and amazing dual pixel autofocus. So yeah, it might be a tough day when that camera comes out for the GH5. Although it's still going to probably be pretty complicated to use. I mean, Canon's pretty good, but you're getting into the professional world there with a camera of that level. And it's also going to be most likely pretty darn expensive. The GH5 is going to really be insanely cheap compared to that camera, in my opinion. It's probably going to be like, what, $4,000 or $5,000? I got a few questions also about kind of what my go out and shoot stock video setup is these days, and I'm just going to start with the wide angle, go to the telephoto end. So first up, we've got my little Laowa. Let's see if the focus is. First up, we've got my little Laowa 7.5 millimeter ultra wide angle lens. It's super tiny. It's got great build, and it's super wide. It's got an f2 aperture. Does pretty well for most wide angle work and gimbal stuff. So if you can deal with the manual focus, which shouldn't be that hard with such a wide angle lens, then you'll be good to go. My next lens I can't show you because I'm filming with it right now, but it's the Leica 10 to 25 millimeter f1.7 zoom. When I go out shooting for clients or shooting stock videos, I feel like this has been on my camera like 90% of the time since I got it. It's just a super great zoom range, and it just does almost everything I need it to do. It has as fast aperture as most primes for the Micro Four Thirds system, and I think represents a pretty good value for what it gives you if you can afford it. Although you could easily get like a 12 to 35, 12 to 40 f2.8 from Panasonic or Olympus to really cover that same range, or maybe a little bit bigger range with a couple extra features and a way lower price. So those are pretty good starter lenses. Most people can get by with just a 12 to 35 lens for like 90% of their work. That's pretty good for that sort of standard focal length range. And my last lens I've been using is the Olympus 40 to 150. It is, you know, pretty big lens. It's like a 80 to 300 2.8 equivalent, and this is sort of my telephoto lens of choice because of the weather sealing, the clutch focus right here, and all the features it really provides you. It can really do amazing work. It might be a little short if you're doing stuff like wildlife and birds. It's got a pretty general telephoto zoom range. It's got a really great aperture, and yeah, it's just a fantastic lens. If you're on a stabilized camera system like the GH5 or the G9, this is going to be great. It's got no image stabilization in the lens. But if you're on an older camera or the GH5S, then maybe Panasonic's 35 to 100 or 50 to 200 is going to be a little bit better for you. Anyway, those are my three main lenses I've been using for like 90% of my work. So hopefully that was helpful to you guys. I don't know. If you want to see more on any of these individual lenses, just definitely let me know, and I'll try to make a follow-up video on them. I'm really loving this Leica 10-25, so probably going to see some videos on that whether you want it or not. I also got a comment about using a camcorder, and yeah, that would be pretty great. I mean, if you had a camcorder that had good enough quality, you could pretty much get the zoom range of all those lenses I just mentioned and the quality of the GH5 all built into one package that's really, really usable. Problem is, the most camcorders that do what I would need them to do are pretty expensive or lack some of the features I'd want. There is one from Panasonic that has a micro four thirds size sensor, which sounds really cool, but for me, it's just not the way I like to roll. I like being able to switch out lenses, use old vintage lenses, use third-party manufacturers, and I don't think there's any camcorders that have a, you know, f1.8 or faster lens associated with them. So for me, it doesn't really fit my style of shooting. But for shooting stock video, you know, most camcorders can go just as wide as, you know, 24 millimeters. And, you know, it can go way, way more zoomed in than the, you know, 300 millimeter equivalent of this, probably going on to 400 or 600 or 1200 millimeters. So, yeah, for certain types of shooters, I can definitely see a camcorder working out better. And the last question I got was on YouTube, and it was about memory cards. I've been using Lexar cards for a long time. I'm using one right now. People have weird experiences with them, but I've never had one fail on me before. But my go-to has been this. Let's see if the focus works. This has really been my go-to SD card for the last year. I got them in a pack of 2 just in case I ever wanted to dual record onto them. But yeah, it's a 64 gigabyte, 300 megabits per second, VR90, class 10, U3, whatever. It should by far exceed the requirements for 400 megabits per second 4K recording on this camera. And that's what I wanted to do. These guys have literally given me no problems. They're, you know, dust proof and electric proof for, you know, all this crazy stuff. They're super expensive, but if you really want the best cards out there, this is definitely the way to go. All right, guys, thanks for watching and supporting the channel, and I hope you like this style of video. Please let me know if you like it down in the description, but I'm gonna try to release a video every other week, and then the following week, release a sort of follow-up answering the questions and comments from the last video, as well as including anything I might have forgotten, like the stuff about the G9 or the cheaper cameras as well. So definitely let me know if you like this style of video, this more relaxed style of video, and I'll keep putting them out as long as you guys watch them. So if you have any further questions or comments, I'm not going to do a follow-up to this video, but I will try to respond to you in the comments below and answer any questions you might have about any of the topics I touched on today. While you're down there, if you could hit the like button, that would be great. And if you want to see more videos on the GH5 filmmaking, and also hit subscribe if you want to see more on the GH5 or filmmaking or gear or videography or stock video or anything like that, and get notified when my future videos go live. We're back to the normal video next week, so definitely keep an eye out. Hope to see you there, and thanks for watching.